and a bad radiator. We can't keep it, Jack, Johnny insisted, even as she allowed the puppy to lick her nose. You know Roper's rules. No dogs, no babies, no fun. We'll be evicted. Yeah, Jack grunted, watching the puppy chase its own tail. We're keeping half the bargain so far. No babies. But look at her. She's homeless. They tried to hide the dog, but in a small apartment with thin walls, a puppy is as discreet as a fire alarm. Every whimper was attributed to Jack stubbing his toe, and the dog food smells were defended as Jack's latest gourmet experiments in beef bourguignon for the soul. The situation reached a head when Mrs. Roper, suspecting nothing but feeling neighborly and perhaps a bit lonely, borrowed some milk and ended up taking home a bowl of what she thought was Jack's French stew for Stanley's dinner. It's beef bourguignon, Stanley. Jack made it in his cooking class. Helen beamed as she set the bowl in front of her husband. Stanley sniffed it, his nose wrinkling. Smells like kibble and bone meal. Why aren't you having any, Helen? Oh, there wasn't enough for both of us. I had a sandwich, Helen lied, her eyes darting to the kitchen. Just as Stanley was about to take a fateful bite, Jack burst through the door, his face pale as a sheet. Stop! Don't eat that. It's for a very specific diet. He snatched the bowl and dumped it down the sink before Stanley could even raise his spoon. He's crazy, Stanley yelled as Jack fled the room. That kid is losing his mind. My dinner's floating out to sea again. Chapter 6. An Anniversary Surprise. The puppy problem remained unsolved until a moment of sleepwalking brilliance occurred. Chrissy, in a state of midnight unconsciousness triggered by a particularly stressful day with Columbus, took the puppy and left it on the Ropers' doorstep on top of their morning paper. The next morning was the Ropers' 20th anniversary, a milestone Stanley had, predictably, forgotten in favor of worrying about his pipes. Helen, however, had high hopes for a romantic gesture, or at least a card that didn't mention plumbing. When she opened the door to find a puppy staring up at her with big, brown eyes, she was overjoyed. Oh, Stanley, it's darling. You remembered our anniversary. You really do have a heart. Stanley, confused, nursing a headache from his weather check, and still mourning his lost beef bourguignon, looked at the dog. What? Anniversary? Oh, right, the dog. Leaving him on the doorstep like that, to surprise me. Just what I always wanted. Helen hugged the dog, her face glowing with a rare, genuine happiness. Stanley, seeing an opportunity to take credit for a miracle he didn't perform and avoid a week of Helen's wrath, straightened his robe. Yeah. Well, I knew you'd like it. Took me ages to find the right one. Very rare breed. The Santa Monica Courtyard Hound. He looked up to see the trio watching from the stairs, Chrissy looking particularly sheepish as she realized what her sleeping self had done. About that French food I ate last night, Jack, Stanley called out, pointing a finger. Do me a favor. Give my wife the recipe. The stuff she feeds me usually isn't fit for a dog, but that puppy seems to love the smell of your cooking. The puppy had found a home. The Ropers were momentarily at peace, and the secret of apartment 201 remains safe for now. Chapter 7: The Pub and the Bully. The fragile peace of the apartment was shattered by an incident at the local pub, the Regal Beagle. It was supposed to be a work break from redecorating the sagging couch, but it turned into a test of Jack's masculinity that he wasn't prepared for. A large, boisterous man-a-moose in a leather jacket with arms the size of Jack's legs had taken an interest in Johnny and Chrissy. He was insulting, loud, and physically imposing, the kind of man who ate steak for breakfast and nails for lunch. Jack, sensing the danger and his own lack of muscles, had tried to de-escalate. Maybe we should just leave, Jack suggested, his voice tight and several octaves higher than usual. The atmosphere is getting a bit crowded. You're a coward, Jack, the bully sneered, intentionally knocking Jack's beer over. A little runt like you shouldn't be out with two girls like this. Jack didn't fight. He didn't throw a punch. He didn't even yell. He sat down, wiped the beer off his shirt, and watched as the bully laughed and walked away to the bar. Back at the apartment, the silence was heavy and judgmental. Jack felt yellow, a feeling that brought back painful memories of Fat Kenny Jensen from his school days, the boy who used to take his lunch money and his dignity. He who fights and runs away lives to fight another day, Johnny offered, trying to be the voice of reason, but failing to hide the disappointment in her eyes. I didn't even run, Jack muttered, staring at his hands. I just sat there and took it. I'm a human doormat. He felt the need to prove himself, not just to the girls, but to himself. The next night, they returned to the pub. Jack was determined to stand up for his roommates, even if it meant a trip to the emergency room. But before he could act, Stanley Roper walked in, complaining loudly about a toothache that was driving him to drink. The bully, seeing Stanley, started his routine again, targeting the older man. But Stanley, blinded by dental agony and in no mood for anyone's nonsense, snapped like a dry twig. Shut up, you big clown. I've got a pain in my jaw you wouldn't believe. If you don't pipe down, I'll give you a pain to match it. The bully, confused by this small, angry man's total lack of fear, backed down. He assumed Stanley was a tough guy who simply didn't care about the odds. Jack, seeing the bully retreating from Stanley's wrath, stepped forward to reclaim some glory. Yeah, and you owe these ladies an apology for last night. The bully, now genuinely unnerved by the strange duo of an agonizingly angry older man and a suddenly defiant young one, apologized and left the pub in a hurry. You were fantastic, Jack, Chrissy cheered.